They say the night hides more than shadows. It hides the truth.
Welcome to Mr. Haunting Whispers, where real crimes, true horrors, and restless spirits speak through the silence. Listen closely, because sometimes the whispers are real.
We all feel it sometimes. That tingle at the back of your neck, the sense you're not alone. Maybe it's the window left open a crack, the camera light that flickers for just a second too long. Or maybe it's the quiet certainty that something is watching you, waiting for you to look its way, so it can finally know that you've seen it too. Tonight, we step into the eyes of the unseen. 6 true stories, 6 encounters with the ones who never sleep, the ones who watch from the dark. You grow up in a place like this, and you learn to live with silence. Our town barely shows up on the map. A scatter of homes, a post office, one diner that closes before dark. Out here, the only thing that ever really moves is the wind through the wheat. My name's Eli. I've lived here all my life. My family's land stretches 5 miles north of town. Golden fields in the summer, ghostly pale in the winter. We don't get many strangers out this way, so when the first effigy appeared, nobody knew what to make of it. It was early spring when I found it, standing at the far end of my field where the soil dips down near the old creek bed. At first, I thought it was a scarecrow, roughed wooden frame, tied with twine, a burlap sack for a head. But as I got closer, I noticed the details. The face wasn't just random stitching, it was carved. 2 slits for eyes, a deep notch for a mouth, and the nose, the way it curved, looked exactly like mine. I remember feeling cold all over, even though the sun was high. The thing was facing my house. I told my neighbors about it that night. We met at the diner, same as always. They laughed it off at first, kids playing pranks probably. But then Claire Miller spoke up. She said she'd found one too at the edge of her property. Same shape, same size, only hers had her husband's hat nailed to its head. By the end of that week, 4 more people in town had found them, always at the far edge of their fields, always facing home. We called the sheriff. He came out, looked at a few, said they were just elaborate pranks, but that didn't explain what happened next. A few nights later, I woke up around 3 a.m. to a sound I can still hear in my head. A low, groaning creak, like wood twisting under strain. I looked out my window. The effigy in my field wasn't where it had been. It had moved. Now it stood halfway up the hill, closer to the house, same direction, still facing me. The next morning, I walked out there. The ground around it was untouched. No footprints, no tire marks, nothing. The wood was rough, but I noticed something carved into the post that formed its spine. Letters burned into the surface. My name, E-L-I. By the end of that month, dozens of effigies had appeared around town. Every property, every direction, always the same shape, always watching. Some people left, packed up and drove away. The rest of us tried to ignore it, as if pretending not to see them would make them stop moving. Then one night, the wind died. No crickets, no frogs, no sound at all. And from out in the fields came the creaking again, hundreds of wooden bodies shifting in the dark. I looked out and saw them, lined in perfect rows, all facing the town square, their heads tilted slightly upward like they were listening. And then, from somewhere far out beyond the fields, a whisper rolled across the valley. I couldn't make out the words, but every effigy turned its head toward the sound, all at once. By morning, they were gone, every single one. No posts, no rope, no footprints, just flattened grass and the smell of burnt wood. The sheriff said it was vandals, The church said it was punishment. The rest of us, we stopped asking. It's been 5 years since then. Most of the families moved away. The fields have gone fallow, the soil too dry for anything to grow. But sometimes, when the fog rolls in at dawn, I can see shapes out there, tall, still, and if I stay quiet long enough, I swear I can hear the creak of old wood and my name faintly whispered through the grain. When I first moved into that apartment, I thought I'd finally found peace. It wasn't much, just a one-bedroom on the 3rd floor of a faded old complex near the city's edge, but it was mine. The kind of place where the pipes moan when it rains, where the hallways smell like dust and lemon cleaner, where every door has a story you'll never really know. I didn't have much furniture. A couch from the thrift store, a second-hand bed frame, and a single mirror, tall, full-length, framed in tarnished gold. I set it against the wall beside my bedroom door, facing the window, where it caught the soft morning light. For a while, it was the one thing that made the room feel alive. The first time I noticed something strange, it was subtle. I'd been getting ready for work, half awake, shirt half buttoned. In the mirror, I caught a glimpse of myself, but something was off. It wasn't the reflection, it was the timing. When I lifted my hand to adjust my collar, the reflection was a beat late, a blink behind. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, fatigue, or maybe a trick of the lighting, but once you start noticing something like that, you can't unsee it. Every morning after, I'd watch it carefully, and every morning, that tiny delay became clearer. Half a second, then a full second, then more. I started testing it. I'd raise my left hand. The reflection would copy, but slower. I'd blink twice. It blinked once. Sometimes it seemed to be thinking about it, like it wasn't copying, but deciding what to do next. One evening after work, I came home to find the mirror covered in condensation, like someone had breathed on it from the inside. The air in my apartment was cold and dry. I wiped the glass clean, and for a moment I could have sworn the reflection didn't move. It just stood there, staring at me, while I wiped my own handprint away. And then, as the last streak of fog vanished, it smiled. A small, deliberate smile. Mine didn't. That night, I dragged a blanket to the couch and tried to sleep, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. That subtle, knowing grin staring back from a pane of glass. Around 3 a.m., I heard something. A faint tap, tap, like fingernails against glass. It came from the bedroom. I didn't move, didn't breathe, just lay there in the dark, listening. Tap, tap, then a pause, then 3 slow taps, deliberate, like a rhythm waiting for me to respond. When I finally looked, the reflection was standing closer than it should have been, half its face in shadow, eyes just a little too wide. Over the next few days, things escalated. Sometimes I'd catch my reflection moving before I did, turning its head slightly toward the door as if it heard something I couldn't. Other times I'd see someone else's shape just behind it in the reflection, a blur of motion, there and gone in a blink. I stopped using the mirror after that, covered it with a blanket, but even then at night I could still hear the tapping. Always 3 beats, always waiting for me to notice. One morning I woke up to find the blanket on the floor. The mirror was uncovered again. There was writing on the glass, drawn in faint streaks of condensation. Please don't leave. And just below that, a single handprint, pressed from inside. I moved out a week later. Didn't tell the landlord why, but I couldn't shake the feeling I was forgetting something, like part of me had stayed behind. Every so often when I pass a mirror, in an elevator, a store window, a passing car, I think I see my reflection watching just a moment too long, lingering, smiling that same patient smile, like it's waiting for me to come home.
They say that to be seen is to exist, that the moment someone's eyes find you, the universe remembers your name again. Maybe that's why they watch. The lights in empty rooms, The shadows that move just after you stop walking. The reflections that blink when you don't. Maybe they aren't trying to frighten us. Maybe they're just afraid to be forgotten. Are you watching? Tonight, we've looked through 6 pairs of eyes. Some human, some not so much. And if you felt that familiar weight at the back of your neck, that sense that someone was standing behind you even when you knew you were alone, then maybe you weren't, because the ones who watch from the dark never really leave. They linger in the corners of our screens, in the reflections we ignore, and in the stories we tell to make sense of the moments that don't make sense at all. So the next time you feel eyes on you when you're alone in the room, don't turn around too fast. Sometimes they only stay quiet if you pretend not to see them. We see you. Until next time, stay in the light, and remember, they only watch because you still can.
You've been listening to Mr. Haunting Whispers, where every truth leaves a scar. If the story unsettled you, good. That means you were listening. Subscribe and stay close to the dark, because the next whisper might be for you.